Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Double Stuff Podcast, where we're double the host, double the topics, and double the fun. I'm Alan.
I'm Dan.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Charity.
And everybody, everybody sit up straight, shoulders back,
Elbows off the table.
elbows off the table, elbows in.
In the
All
table?
right, make sure that you're
Not slouched.
not slouched, because today we're talking about etiquette. So get ready to get those pinkies up in the air.
Emily Post.
That's
Yeah.
right. Let's talk about etiquette. And more specifically, let's talk about what types of etiquette adjustments, edits have been made to classic kind of Victorian style edits. So if we're all talking about Victorian etiquette, I can confidently say that we probably all fail. Would I be?
Yeah.
There's no chance.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Is that also deals with putting the book on top of your head to practice walking
Exact
smoothly?
posture, yes.
I wouldn't
Also
even be allowed
politeness.
downstairs in Downton Abbey.
Yeah, exactly, right?
We wouldn't be allowed in the house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a different story for us.
He'd be in the outhouse
Yeah.
3 meters away.
So what types of edits have we kept, and what have we edited out in our modern 2021 day-to-day lives?
I think we've just been altogether casual about a lot of things.
Yeah.
See, the only thing I can think of is clothing, but that's not etiquette,
Well,
though.
the little bit I remember, this is because... yes. Well, and I remember, when I grew up reading, like, the American Girls books.
Okay.
And so one of the American Girls was Felicity.
Samantha?
Felicity, because
Wrong one.
this is during the Tea Party and all that stuff. So one thing that I still remember was that if you do go to a tea party and if you don't want the tea, you turn the cup upside down and then cover your hand over it or something like that. And then you say, no, thank you, I shall have no tea.
Oh,
or
that's how the
something like
story
that.
ended. I remember that.
Yeah. So... Not that I'm in a situation where I have to turn my cup over and say, I don't want no tea.
I don't want none of your tea.
Right. Well, even the process that it takes to do a proper tea,
Yeah.
I don't think that we, as in 2021, Wichita, Kansas,
Or just Western Civ.
we don't. I don't think we take the time, one, to really appreciate it and value. I think that it would almost be strange.
No, because we get it from McDonald's in a big cup. That's how we drink our tea.
That's right.
Yeah, see?
Go right down to QT,
Yeah.
get the large.
But see, I think that's the difference between ceremony and etiquette. Like when you're talking about that, right? Because like tea making is kind of a ceremonial thing. I feel like etiquette is almost like rules that are meant to show like an appearance, right?
Yeah.
An appearance of us class status or something like
So
that.
is that like
Hit it, yeah.
when you're walking down the street and the man has to walk on the left
they walk on
side,
the left side,
near
yes.
like where the horse and carriage would be
Oh, see, I
or
still
something?
do that with the car stuff.
And that's where his sword hand was. So in case something happens, he could draw his sword on his right side
Right.
and then defend the woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that's also another rule of, I guess it falls under etiquette because back then women had to be chaperoned at all times if they were out with
Yeah.
other people. So if you were with a man, you had to have a chaperone or something, or even in a party, it could be like a full crowded party or whatever. But if you were still like close to a man, like that was considered scandalous.
That's really interesting too, because I think you touched on two different forms. So one, like the walking of the street, would be more along the lines of chivalry.
Yeah,
Whereas etiquette is more of day to day, how you present yourself,
Yeah.
to everyone else. So I mean, it's kind of bizarre how comfortable we are with almost, I don't know, taking off that yoke of etiquette and chivalry,
An appearance.
but yet
Yeah.
at the same time we still long for it. I mean, there are points in our lives that we long for it. I'll give an example. Like, as I'm a complete animal at like the table, or even at like in the kitchen, where I will be sampling things as I'm cooking or from the refrigerator, things like that. And my daughters will call me out on it. I'm like, well, there's still hope for you. I'm a lost cause. I don't want to see you eating from the refrigerator. Don't model dad. But
No,
that's something that we struggle with. Is as we're trying to raise our daughters, we're trying to model good behavior, and we're trying to teach them good behavior, so that when they are at a restaurant or in a situation to avoid a previous topic, an awkward situation, they'll know how to handle themselves.
I think that is the big thing. It's more of how you act in public. How you act in your house, you can be an animal like you say, but don't you dare do that once we leave the door.
But that's interesting though, because traditional etiquette that you shouldn't. It should be
all the
natural.
time.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's the casual bit.
Yeah, when you're learning it, it's hard to like, okay, I can do this here, but I can't do it there.
It's confusing.
You got to be consistent with it, or else it doesn't stick.
Well, I think of like if you watch Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility or something. Whenever someone enters a room, the girls do a small curtsy and the gentlemen bow, or they remove their hat or whatever. That's sort of what I think about. But it kind of makes me think like, I guess what was the reason behind certain things? Like the other one's probably just a sign of respect, but like, at the beginning of the podcast, you said, get your elbows off the table. Well, why can't I have my elbows on the table? So like, what was the reasoning behind elbows on the table versus off? Does it make it easier for you to eat?
I think it's a signal. I think it's a signal to other people that like you were raised a certain way, or you're at a certain status of like level in class. Well, it's not even so that you stand out. It's so that way people can identify like, okay, that person is somebody I want to associate with because they are of the same class as I am, or higher, right? Yeah. Whereas like this person who's like, doing, with like elbows on the table, I don't want to associate with them because they obviously didn't have the same education or wealth or level, whatever.
Well, if your elbows are on the table, I guess that means you're slouching because you're not sitting straight up because your elbows would be.
According to a random Google search about that.
According to my research,
I'm a bit of a Dorothy Ann here. One of the things, I don't know how true it is, but it says for earlier civilizations, it was good to not have your elbows on the table because it would prevent outbreaks of violence at the table.
Oh.
So if that was the case, you're kind of already on guard and you can just grab somebody and grab them across the table, maybe.
That could be.
Oh, so it's like a fight stance.
Yeah, but if you have your hands hidden, well, you don't know what somebody's doing. They could be prepping to like come after you.
But the thing is that unless you have a gun under there, you would have to do this, and you have to lift your hands from under the table. That gives you enough reaction time to do whatever.
It's like, no, I was going for the bread.
Like all Thanksgiving dinners.
Yeah. Well, and that brings up a really good point as far as cultural etiquette.
Yeah.
How does it? Are there absolutes when it comes to etiquette? And does it cross over into other cultures? Do other cultures take more Western traditions? Do we've been seeing a lot more swing towards Eastern traditions that have been adopted here in Western civilizations?
Well, so I know one big one. Because, especially like here in America at least, and probably like in England and other places, is really rude to slurp at the table.
Right.
Or, like with soup, or if you're drinking something that last bit. But if you go to other countries, that shows that they like the food because they ate or drank every bit of it. So that's actually a sign of a compliment for them.
Well, and I don't know if it like maybe is necessarily a compliment, but it's at least expected because that type of food, in order to eat it, you have to slurp
it. Maybe that's
so it's not like, oh, they must like it, but it's like, it's not like, ew, they're slurping. Like, you have to slurp in order to eat this food.
Yeah, but I wonder if it's like a mixture.
Well,
maybe
even in recent, I can remember this distinctly a few years ago when the name of the mayor escapes me from New York. Starts with a B.
Oh, Rod Blagojevich.
Rod.
Okay. That's the mayor's name that you're thinking of. I think Blagojevich. Rod Blagojevich.
No, that doesn't sound right at all.
Pretty certain that's was one of the mayor's.
Were you randomly Googling that?
Either that, or I just made up a really random name off the top of my head.
De Blasio's who I'm thinking of.
Well, that doesn't start with a B. Starts with a D.
De Blasio.
De Blasio. That sounds similar to Blagojevich, doesn't it?
Why didn't it just come to Bill De Blasio?
It's a name I would have figured out.
Who's Rob De Blagojevich?
He is a former politician, political commentator, and a convicted felon who served as the 40th governor. He was the 40th governor of Illinois.
Oh, Illinois. That's close to New York.
So close.
He got the governor part right.
Yeah. But during his campaign, there were photos taken of him when he was eating his pizza with a knife and fork, and everybody lambasted him for doing that. And when technically, maybe for etiquette, and perhaps, who knows, his own personal etiquette, that was completely what came natural to him.
You're not a real New Yorker.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, full.
That makes sense.
That was a Seinfeld episode, right?
I'm sure.
Because somebody ate something
bar.
with but they ate it with a knife and fork, and they were like, "What the heck? What's
That's right. It was classy.
It's funny because when I was in elementary school, because eating, I'm always self-conscious when maybe this kind of goes with the awkward situation or whatever, but when I'm in a place where there's eating, I'm always really self-conscious because I don't want people to see me with food in my mouth. I don't know.
Well,
so
don't eat with your mouth open.
Well, yeah, but I'm not saying, but like when you're chewing and you try to be all proper with it and stuff, what was the point I was trying to make with that?
You're talking about eating with a knife and a fork.
Yeah, but anyway, don't eat with your mouth open, kids.
It's always proper etiquette to finish your story.
Yeah,
That's right.
it is. I had a good one.
Well,
I might come back later.
I think of the proper way to set a table because Sarah and I were talking about that, earlier today. And I worked in a very nice restaurant when I was in college, and then I also did catering. So we do stuff for events and weddings. And so to do like a proper spread on a table, it's a lot of dishes for one person. So you have your
salad.
You've got your salad fork and then your dinner fork
on the left.
On your left, and you have your plate in the middle with the soup bowl on top.
Right.
Then you have your kitchen knife and then your spoon on the side. In front, you have a butter knife and a plate.
On the top left.
The dessert spoon goes on top of your plate, and then to the left, you have like a butter knife and a butter plate for your bread. And then you have you could have a napkin that's folded into some sort of thing. I've done the fortune cookie, artichoke, and the fan one. Okay. And then you've got your wine glass and then a water glass, and then like salt and pepper goes in front. Like it's kind of hard to explain through audio, but you have your salt and pepper that's above the soup spoon. So like if you're actually at a banquet, you've got a host of dishes like all around you, and each person has that for each table setting.
Right. Yeah.
The times me and Charity have gone on cruise ships, they have really fancy settings like that. And maybe just because I haven't grown up with that kind of layout, sometimes I don't know which spoon to take.
Start on the outside, work your way in.
Yeah,
That's right.
I guess that is.
By default, yeah.
And I think I've heard other people say that, but like when I was in it, I just didn't know. I'm like, this looks like a spoon to use for this,
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and very often, like when they hand you your plate, like with your food on it, like they'll take away your place setting that's already there, and then they'll put another plate in front of you, and that's got new silverware. So you're actually they're swapping out dishes, but you get more dishes too.
They even put the napkin on your lap, which is
fancy.
Which is fancy, but at the same time, because people don't put napkins on my lap on normal days.
Do you want to tuck it in your collar? Is that what you want?
Yeah,
that bib look?
like a real proper person from those craft shacks. But that's always different when someone like places the food on you, places the napkin and stuff on. Yeah, that's a whole other restaurant. But yeah, when people do it for you, that's always different.
I do find that just in day-to-day life or just in general, I do find myself like longing for more etiquette at some point and criticizing myself or just how we have like at the dinner table. Of course, we're a normal family, so mail gets put on the dinner table, homework gets shoved to the end. There might be a laptop or something, and sometimes I'm like, this is too much. We've gone too far. And then we'll swing back, but it just oscillates, back and forth of, okay, we've gone too far. This is too casual. This is too much. And then it can go other ways too, where I'm like, go to the Golden Corral because Golden Corral's awesome. But then you're like, okay, that's way too far. There's no way that we should be.
We have 6 plates of mac and cheese. Gotta
exactly.
stop.
We're definitely.
With a buffet, it's like challenge accepted. I'm gonna eat all of this.
It is.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, but that's why like the family dynamic and just how we interact has changed so much, even in just 50 years, let alone a century, 200-300 years. So because technology has become part of our regular lifestyle, we expect to have phones on the table, laptops on the table, and then we eat around it, and that's not strange.
I think it can be. I think it can be. It can be confusing because at least here in the culture that we live in, there's not a huge emphasis put on etiquette. You'll go to a house that might have, of course, when you have guests over, you're definitely going to put on your best etiquette possible. if you know them. But once you get to know somebody, I think that at least in our culture, we're pretty lax and pretty comfortable. We don't have a strict class system. So you can go to somebody that's making a lot more than you or a lot less and have a very similar dinner experience, after dinner experience, before dinner experience. I think one of the things that I strive to do is just make sure that, at least for my girls, that they be as prepared as possible for whatever situation they encounter so that they avoid the awkward situations.
Well, I think that's just being able to pick up on social cues. I think
social cues, that's a whole other thing.
And this kind of goes back to our awkward situations episode. But, most of us, I think, if we were put in a very high class situation, we were at a very fancy banquet or something, we would be fine. Like, we would eat and, elbows off the table, all that whole thing.
Wait for the person next to you to see what they're doing.
Like we know what to do in that situation.
So some people are just there's
some people that are very socially awkward and they act like themselves no matter what. And it's good to embrace yourself and do all of that, but some people are not able to use their inside voice at the table in a fancy situation, or they don't know the venue. They'll say like an off-color joke, which is fine at a bar with your friends, but don't do it at a wedding reception and saying something about the bride. Like most people I feel like would know how to handle themselves, but a lot of people don't. And I think that's where people get into trouble of, okay, this guy doesn't have proper manners, or she's not doing such and such right. So you got to read the room.
Well, that brings up a good point too. So if by just sheer awesomeness that we've eliminated sort of a class system and kind of anything goes, as a host of a dinner that you're trying to put on, and there's somebody that you described that came in, do you have the right to be like, I should make a fuss about this, or I it's okay for me to be upset about that, or is it I got to let this one go?
I would say
it definitely depends on the situation.
Well, I would say as the host, if you're planning the dinner party, one, if you know that person's like that, you either have the choice to not invite them to avoid the situation, or if you know they're coming and you know they're like that, then you need to plan the event around that style of person. So instead of having a fancy dinner, bring it down to like a barbecue. That way, when Uncle George comes over and starts crushing beer cans on his head, it's not weird because it's just a relaxed barbecue instead of a big fancy dinner. So I would say if you're going to do that, then plan ahead. You got to be smart about it.
Since we are talking about hosting, like, have you guys ever hosted, since the holidays are coming up, have you guys hosted like big Christmas parties and Thanksgiving events, that kind of stuff?
Not to the sense where I'm doing multiple families.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've never.
But you guys have a very nice table. I remember those pictures from last year.
Yeah,
you guys do it up very nice.
We can play it up. That's why I'm saying it just oscillates. It goes from like that image to what just happened, like our whole lives exploded onto the dinner table.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we do, because we're super stupid casual. Like, if it's people that we know, we'll do the styrofoam plates and the plasticware.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that, because you don't have to wash dishes.
To wash.
But then if somebody like that doesn't come often or something, then we'll let's get out the real dishes. Now, we don't have like china or anything, but we at least have
porcelain or something,
non-styrofoam. It's Chinette, right?
It's not like a TV dinner tray. We at least give them a real plate.
Yeah. And that's how that works.
Well, I think that we can all say that we have etiquette moments where it's proper, and there's definitely times to let our hair down and just bring out the styrofoam, bring out the
hot styrofoam.
Yeah, that's right, and just have a good time. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about our discussions, is that we all have the mindset for where we can kind of shift up and down, depending on the situation. And if you have any questions about etiquette, probably don't ask me.
Don't ask me.
You can ask the other three.
Ask Google. Ask Alexa.
But if you have anything that you want to share, feel free to comment, and Sarah will let you know where to comment. Double stuffed.
Yes, thank you, Alan, ever so enunciatingly, a word I just made up. I will say this ever so proper. Thank you again for listening, guys. If you want to check out all of our episodes, our newest ones are on all podcast platforms. We do archive all of our episodes at doublestuffpod.com. Definitely check us out on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Double Stuff Podcasts, and on Twitter at Double Stuff P, and that's the letter P.
We should have did this episode in British accent.